right the ship, and it can be done. But what Pat and Brian are doing and presenting to you is continually upgrading you, not giving you anything that's sugar-coated, but giving you the facts, and that's what has to be done, and I salute what's being done. So, that moves me, the yin and yang. I gotta give you some good news here too, because there is good news. The list of communities that you saw that were presented, those list of communities, if you look at those communities there, I can assure you there isn't a community there, even AAA communities, that wouldn't get the AAA rating without looking at these issues. And their funding levels of pensions may not even be where we are, and I believe we're steps ahead of them. But it's a issue that you're all going to be watching Chicago in the next year. Crane's Business, very, very important article that just appeared on Monday. This is a defining year for Chicago and how they handle pensions, how they handle property taxes, how they handle their debt, and whether or not there'll be another 9.9% property tax increase, which actually was lowest in the 4 top cities in the United States. Big, big issues, and how Chicago goes and their involvement with our state representatives. The pension that was adjusted in a special session by our legislators did not address local pension issues, did not address what we need to address here at the local level. And we need their help as well, and Chicago's asking for their help to make corrections. Got that going correct, guys?
Yeah, you're going the right way, Larry. Keep going.
Okay. It was back on February 13th, about a year ago, not quite a year ago, that the former board was extremely pleased, Mayor Heileman and the board, to make an announcement that Mariano's was coming as an anchor tenant. That same board in 2006, it's a document on your website, it's been on the website for some time. That board in 2006, with some changes through the years and elected officials, Alex was part of it, Trustee Strite was part of it, Carol came on in '07, but all of them have had a role in working hard to make this become a reality. And in 2006, on page 1, this is what the city told the Chicago real estate market and developers. The 111th and Cicero plan offers Oak Lawn a chance to increase retail development and encourage the gateway, key word, operative word, you're going to hear about that a little later on with the TIF and some adjustments we're proposing, but to encourage the gateway concept at one of the village's major intersections. The document goes on to say that there'll be changes ahead. We're not sure quietly about the future, but we're going to look to the creativity. We're going to look to a developer that's willing to join us in partnership. And that's really what occurred. We selected a developer, Hamilton Partners. We made the announcement, soon to come Mariano's. And you'll see the building in the background is going to be similar, though it'll look slightly different in Oak Lawn. It incorporates design and other facade improvements, which our local architectural board and our planning commission, through many public hearings, have already adopted. But that alone, that gives you an idea how many individuals, men and women, will be employed at this site. That's a 24/7 operation. It's not open 24 hours for the public, but when they're closed, they're doing all kinds of things to keep an operation this large serving the community. Look very much like this in the front. The inside of the building is extremely attractive. I know many of you, we've heard from you. Some of the trustees have been to Frankfurt. Carol and Bob have been to Vernon Hills. We've been out to Arlington Heights. Carol and I have looked at that. And Mr. Mariano has been here, he was here for the groundbreaking, and again, their concept fits in line with what the mayor and the board said they wanted at this center. A neighborhood shopping environment that incorporates amenities and focuses on the theme, shop well, eat healthy, and eat well. Okay. Estimated sales of Mariano's and the stores I'm going to kind of show you in concept in phase one, just phase one, we're estimating conservatively over 66 million in sales, and it will generate roughly 450 jobs to be located at that site. Phase one, 450 jobs, roughly 105,000 square feet of retail development of shops, eateries, clothing, apparel, other service industries for the community. The site plan, on the site plan, phase one, you'll see Mario's in the upper middle. Thank you. And you'll see at the corner, excuse my pointer here, you'll see a water feature on the corner with proposals for retail on either side, and currently a restaurant of which we've had CEOs from two well-established restaurants in the greater Chicago area, and we have spent since October working with a decision-making team for that company on what they need to know to make the final decision and sign a lease with our partner, Hamilton Partners. In order to do that, they want to know information about this community that's quite thorough. They want to know what your shopping habits are. They want to know that right now Oaklaunians spend $111 million eating at Palermo's, eating at Francesca's, eating at all the restaurants, Fox's, et cetera, in this community. And they also want to know there's room for growth to accommodate another upscale restaurant in the community. And we've had to demonstrate that. We have to tell information about household income, residential growth, taxation, cost of water, cost of sewer, cost of electricity, et cetera, et cetera. Very, very thorough process. So for those of you who wonder what's happening, you see you don't see progress. Even before the snow was flying, we've been working very closely and, quite frankly, working with Mr. Mariano to get his support and say that's a compatible restaurant that will fit very well. I'm pleased to say we have that support, so I'm pretty excited, and hopefully one of those two or some of the other restaurants that we're in literally weekly discussions with, along with Hamilton, will come to fruition, and hopefully one in the month of February towards the end. That's what our goal is, assuming it gets approved by the board. And I mean their board, not our board. Now, I'm going to show this briefly. This is a utility plan. It's not something we distribute publicly. You can't read the legend. But in order to put a Mariano's and locate it, all these lines represent active utilities, gas lines, major stormwater pipes, cutting across from Kilpatrick, going in an east to west direction, connecting with the Stony Creek water system that makes its way to the Calsay Canal. We have a large gas line that cuts through this area. Where you construct the buildings, what pipes you have to relocate. Servicing that master plan I showed you takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. That's all underway. Can't see this very well. This is a gentleman, construction worker in a ditch. What he is doing there is pouring the foundation walls late last November, before the bad weather set in, for the Mariano's. In order to build on this site, we had to construct underneath a lot of piers, because this area used to be a wetland many, many years back, dating back to 1976, when the Dominick's and the Kmart was constructed. And there was no regard given to the rest of the area, just a large empty parking lot, no landscaping put in place. That was 1976. So we had to make a lot of changes, but for those of you who wonder, or I know we've all had to deal with some of the questions, is anything happening or is someone not coming? There is a lot of work that's being done here under the ground, so that as soon as the weather breaks, you can see the remaining foundation work done, and all of a sudden, you're gonna see walls start to be coming up. A lot of the work's being precast at factories, precast walls that will go up. So there is a lot of work that's underway. I wanted to show you that. Now, what's gonna happen? Again, 3 sources of money that are gonna be created from this. New property taxes. Number 2 is a rent stream. We share in a net of the revenue that comes from all the rent of the new building. So it behooves the village and villagers, households, to buy and eat at the facility. So I'm anxious to see everybody patronize, as they do so well now, car dealerships in this community and other restaurants. That's one of the really outstanding things that I've noticed coming to Oak Lawn, is folks do patronize the businesses, and that's fantastic. So that kind of the end of our presentation. A portion of that debt is being addressed, and eventually someday sooner than later, this phase 1 and phase 2 will be eventually opened up to the market, and the Village of Oak Lawn will get out of the real estate business and turn it over completely back to the private sector, which is where it belongs. Thank you.
Very good. So I'm going to try to shoot for the next meeting to be before the last board meeting in February. The workshop, okay, on that. So I'll send a memo out. But
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you, Larry. Any questions regarding that presentation?
Madam Mayor, I think that went beyond the 3 minutes.
I agree.
Good job, Larry.
Item 9, new business by village trustees. District 1, Trustee Desmond.
Thank you. I'm going to be very quick. There's going to be another jobs fair for high school seniors, this time at Richards High School. That will take place on Thursday, March the 6th. I don't have an exact time yet, but I will let the people know. And if any parents out there, if they get high school seniors, please advise them to come to this fair. It was very beneficial, the last one we had at Oak Lawn High School. And just a last thing, I just want to give a shout out to a young guy on my block, AJ Says. Every time it snows, he's out shoveling the sidewalk on both sides of the street. So I'd like to thank him for helping his neighbours and showing some great community spirit. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. District 2, Trustee Olenichek.
I'm going to forego my report.
Thank you. District 3, Trustee
I'll
Strick.
try to make mine brief. Thank you, Mayor. As many people know, we've recently had some criminal incidents that our community should be aware of in order to protect themselves and their families. Recently, we have had homes and businesses victimized by burglaries and home invasions. Unfortunately, these crimes have become all too prevalent in our community. It is important that we all remain aware of any suspicious activity in the area and that we report any activity to the police. Don't ignore suspicious activity. I'm happy to report that I will soon be sending an electronic newsletter to residents of the 3rd District to keep them informed of any criminal activity in the district. If you would like to receive the newsletter regarding activity in our neighborhood, please call my office at 422-3600 or send me an email at robertjstrite@aol.com and provide me with your email address. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. District 4, anything else you want to add?
No, baby.
District 5, Carol.
Actually,
Trustee
just
Quinlan.
briefly, I have to say, I'm really bothered by the public comments of the former employees that we had. We had received email from you, Larry, on the 21st saying, Norcom took over and it was fully staffed by, former employees. Silly me, I took that to think that pretty much all of our previous staff had been rehired. And so this really came as a shock to me because I felt that, this board was led to believe that they would do whatever they could to hire as many of our 911 operators as possible, and to hear only 5 were.
Trustee, as a policy, I do not talk about personnel matters in public. I will tell you that this entire board, in the last year, has been fed significant information regarding the entire process. You've all been kept abreast. You've been kept abreast of critical data that are reviewed. And the staffing agreement is the responsibility fully of NORCOM, okay? That's their responsibility. I'm extremely pleased that the individuals that were retained, and that was their decision, but those individuals are very, very outstanding individuals. We retain our director, who I think is second to none, and a training team, the supervisory team leaders, all were members of the union. They all progressed through the union. They were elevated to team leaders based upon their performance and experience. So when the switchover occurred, the switchover was entirely manned by extremely competent former employees of the Village of Oak Lawn and current employees of Oak Lawn. Now, having said that, prior, there was a training process, which I informed the board, that was being undertaken at our secondary backup dispatch center at Fire Station number 2. And that training was ongoing, and there would be calls that would be switched over and would be handled by staff and with the new trainees. Now, there was a lot of experience in the room on the switchover, and there continues to be a lot of excellent work.
I'm not taking away anything from the people that were hired. My concern more really is the fact that, especially when you have people that live in Oak Lawn, that worked for us and didn't retain their job.
Well,
and
I'd be more than happy to discuss that in executive session, because that's a personnel matter. And again, I have nothing, but I will always say positive comments about individuals who work for the village here in a public setting. And if there's something that needs to be stated from a constructive perspective or involve the board in that, I'm more than happy to discuss that in executive session.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that your whole report?
That is.
Okay, thanks. Moving on to District 6.
Thank you, Madam
Trustee
Mayor.
Carberry.
Just briefly, thank you to Brian and Pat and Joanne and Larry and all the staff and working on the budget presentation. It's a lot of work, I know, and there's a lot of work to be done. It's not easy as a department head, whether you're the chief of police or the fire or public works, or very difficult decisions to be made. But we got a lot of work to do, and it's obvious we're addressing it. And thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 10. Item 10 is the village manager's report. Larry, I'm turning the floor over to you.
Thank you. I'll keep my comments brief, Mayor. I'm just handing out a background. As you know, part of the budget process and for the direction of the board, we distributed requests for proposals from the red light camera enforcement industry. Very pleased, I reported to the board that we had three outstanding firms that submitted proposals that were responsive to the RFP from the village. I informed the board that I was putting a committee together. This memo indicates the members of the committee. Liaison trustee Terry Vorderer agreed to serve on that committee. I thank Terry for that. The meeting was posted, so it was open to the public. There were some folks from the public. There was a small group in this room. And we listened to the two finalists. The two finalists were our current provider, Redflex Systems out of Phoenix, Arizona. And then the second on the short list firm was the firm of SafeSpeed, and that firm is a Chicago-based firm. I might add it has at least one Oak Lawn resident who I met doing my tour in the technology department. I was very impressed with a young man living in Oak Lawn, working downtown, and in this technology. So you have the background and the process we followed. The criteria to consider my recommendation was overall presentation, technology, service maintenance, financial model, customer service, data in support of public safety, relationship with the Illinois Department of Transportation, extremely important in this case, and references. And I provided the board with references during the fall months that were outstanding as they applied to one of the firms and the firm that I am recommending to you. So I'm recommending that the board select and approve the firm of SafeSpeed from Chicago, Illinois, and that the village manager and the village attorney be authorized to immediately negotiate in terms of putting the agreement as to form, which then would be brought back to you for approval.
Thank you. So I'd like a motion, please, to direct the manager and council to prepare a contract with the vendor to provide services as submitted.
So made.
Properly moved by trustee Warder,
Second.
seconded by trustee Desmond. Any discussion on this item?
I-
Trustee Straight, you have the
Yes,
floor.
thank you. I know that the manager stated very clearly that that contract will be brought back before this board. I just want to make sure of that. So,
That is correct, Larry.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Okay, please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Straight.
yes.
Motion passes.
So we're going to move on to 10B. This is still under the village manager's report. This is per village board 2014 budget adoption, motion to approve personal services agreement with Steve Radis, resignation agreement for Steve Radis, an agreement with Bring It Inc. Larry?
Thank you, Mayor, and again, thank you for the action on item A. I really don't have any further comments. I'm more than happy to answer any questions board members may have. This agreement that has been prepared after thorough discussion with the village attorney's office and with the amount of tension and scrutiny that the reorganization has had, which is fair. I believe that this still is consistent with my presentation made in August during the budget workshops in November and the board's action in December. I would recommend approval.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item?
Has there been a motion?
Oops, nope, we need a motion, you're correct. Are you making that motion? Okay. We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by trustee Carberry, seconded by trustee Oliniechek. Any discussion on this item?
Yes, Mayor.
Oh,
The-
trustee Straight.
Thank you. The presentation of this contract to award another political supporter is an attempt to erase a serious violation of the law. We are backdating a contract in order to pretend that what was done here was legal, when in fact it was not legal. For some reason, we have, as you've heard, we have 3 agreements before us, which, to say the least, is unusual to have 3 agreements made in one motion. One agreement is for a personal services agreement with Mr. Radis to provide property inspection services and economic development consulting. The village will be paying Mr. Radis $75,000 a year. Now, I like Steve Radis, but Steve is not qualified to provide consulting in the area of economic development. He doesn't have a degree in this area, or any area for that matter, and he has 0 experience. He doesn't, this is another case of the board following the fail and hit list that said you should reward supporters. We then have a resignation agreement where we are pretending that Steve resigned in September, even though he was working in the property inspection division up until